Hello, everyone. So excited to start off this Virginia Tech Life Sciences seminar. And the title of the seminar today is Communicating Science, Celebrating Opportunities and Outreach. And that's what we're here to do. I am Patty Ron. I am the director of the Center for Communicating Science at Virginia Tech. And I am so excited to hear from our 9 Flash Talk presenters today in this seminar. They're people that are doing really exciting work across campus. And this seminar can provide an opportunity for researchers at Virginia Tech and graduate students to learn a little bit more about communicating sciences research that is happening all across campus, but also super exciting outreach events and opportunities for engagement. So I am really delighted to have the great opportunity to introduce our various presenters. And I got to tell you, part of the reason that I'm so excited about this is the very first event of our Communicating Science Week, which is actually taking place in March. But we had planned this event or hoped for this event to be part of that week. So we're also using it as a shameless promotion for Communicating Science Week events that will be happening from March 16th through the 23rd. And you'll find out all the information that you would want about that on our website. My pleasure to introduce our first guest first presenter, my amazing colleague, Carrie Kraler, who is the Associate Director of the Center for Communicating Science, who will tell you some of the things that we do.
Thank you, Patty. How can the Center for Communicating Science help you communicate your important work? I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour. The mission of the center is to create and support experiences for scientists, engineers, medical professionals, scholars, and others to build their muscles of connection, communication, and collaboration. And what sets us apart from other approaches is that we use powerful tools from the arts: embodied learning, deep listening, improvisation, role play, and storytelling. And we like to have fun. We believe in the power of play for learning. I want to spend just a little extra time on the listening part. I think Patty would agree with me that the longer we do this, the more important we understand listening to be, because communicating our research is not just about dumping knowledge on other people. It's about entering into relationships with people, and listening is required. We know that there's no one best way to communicate. There are as many communication styles as there are human beings or more. But we do know there are some common elements of effective communication. And that is, effective communication is personal, it is direct, it is spontaneous, it's responsive, and it involves emotional connection. And I would add to that list now, effective communication takes time, it can take patience, and it can require some affection. So how do we use these approaches? In many ways, we have a graduate communicating science course. This is a group of students that went and did an outreach project at a Giles County school, took their research out for 6th and 7th graders, and every section does an outreach event. We have an undergraduate class, Introduction to Applied Collaborative Techniques. We facilitate workshops and intensives for faculty, postdocs, graduate students, undergraduate students on campus, and also elsewhere. This is a group of Nature Conservancy fellows that did a 2-day intensive with us. We also bring in outside speakers. I think this is this very room that you're getting to see on the slide now, to share their expertise with us on campus. And we support an annual conference. One of the organizers is in this room, ComSciCon, organized by graduate students for graduate students to help them with learning communicating science. We also support a lot of outreach events. We have Science on Tap, at which researchers can talk about their research to community members. We have a kindergarten outreach project. This graduate student distilled her whole dissertation into a set of colorful flashcards that she shared with children. Flip the Fair, you're going to hear about that next. We support graduate student initiated projects. And every year we have the Nutshell Games. That's coming up March 19th, at which 30 graduate students have 90 seconds to talk about their research. We also help people share their research through writing. Our website has a research stories page and a story maps site associated with it. And recently we've started sparking, supporting collaborations between scientists and artists. And that's resulted in some really exciting projects. This is a performance piece about population displacement, some art and video around Emmanuel Frimpong's research with the bluehead chub. An aerial artist performed in Duck, North Carolina to bring out town residents to have conversations with engineers about sea level changes and climate change. And this Who Can Be a Scientist research project has been joined now by poets and musicians that are enriching the research. And what does ping pong have to do with community wealth building? You can find out about all of these projects during Communicating Science Week because all of these collaborators are going to be presenting. We have done this now for a lot of people. We've had more than almost 1,200 students, undergrad and graduate students, go through our courses and have impacted 17,000 people if you add up all of our outreach, workshops, and presentations. And we would love to add you to that graph. Let us know how we can work with you as you develop grant proposals and projects so that we can help you communicate your research more effectively to your audiences. And please join us for Communicating Science Week. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carrie. It is a pleasure to work with Carrie. And those of you that know her know that she's really the engine behind the Center for Communicating Science. I am delighted to introduce our next Flash Talk group. They did a project a couple weeks ago that had me flying for many days afterwards because it was so exciting. Amanda Hensley, Abby Lewis, Carla Lopez Joreda, and Emma Buren are here to tell us about Flip the Fair.
What does it mean for science communication to empower? At our Flip the Fair event, we put power in the hands of elementary school students, inviting them to evaluate graduate student science fair posters. The event had two goals. The first was to provide meaningful identity building science outreach for youth in Roanoke. We wanted to allow students to see themselves as active contributors to science and interact with a diverse group of real-life scientists in one-on-one settings. The second goal was to provide a fun and engaging and impactful opportunity for graduate students to practice science communication, recognizing that science communication is a critical skill for all graduate students. This event was hosted at the Roanoke Public Libraries. We had over 25 graduate student presenters and lots of kids coming through. We had, of course, prizes for all of our some of the graduate student presenters who won awards, and there were raffle prizes for the student judges.
So we wanted to evaluate this event. We put a lot of time and effort into it. And so we took the opportunity to send out surveys to presenters and volunteers, as well as to the judges and their parents and guardians, in part to inform us on how well the event was, how their experiences were, what their perspectives and feedback were, but also to inform for any future iterations of this event. We received several comments from presenters so far, where they really enjoyed noticing that as children would walk away from their poster, they would still be talking about it and conversing about it and telling each other about it. They really liked noticing that the kids were getting it, having those aha moments. And not an hour after the event was over, our top winner, who gave us permission to post this, she posted on her Facebook a very generous and kind post about the event, and that it was very meaningful and that she felt she inspired children. On the judges and parent side, we actually had an open-ended question on the scoring sheet as they were going through for them to have the ability to comment to give to the presenters. And this one actually almost brought a tear to my eye. One of our presenters talking about cancer, and one of the judges said, "My cousin had cancer and it helped me understand better." And we had some media coverage. One of the parents was interviewed by Cardinal News, and we really love this quote. This is something he could see himself doing, which was really a great deal of the intent for this event.
So one thing that we thought was very important was to provide graduate students not only with the opportunity to present their research and to interact with students, but also to give students the opportunity to prepare for these events and to gain skills in science communication. So for this, we put together a workshop in collaboration with the Center for Communicating Science, where graduate students had the opportunity to practice their science communication and through their various approaches that Carrie just talked about. We thought it was also really important to bring in resources that could talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion in science communication and the importance in adapting your science communication to different communities and to being culturally sensitive to the communities that you might interact with. So we thought this was a really important part as a sort of preparation to the event. Yeah.
And so last, we also have, these are our 9 organizers for the event. And from our perspective, it was really empowering for us as well, because it was these 9 organizers and it started as kind of, just a small group. We were able to have this kind of massive event come from it. And so it was really empowering for us to be able to make and foster these connections from both Blacksburg all the way out into Roanoke and with the community. And then it was also just really powerful to be able to interact with these kids and have kind of this great outreach event. And so for our experience, we think at least part of the success was due to the fact that we were able to have this really great puzzle piece and kind of tight-knit group that everyone fit well together. And our tip for graduate students that might want to do this again is to really find your group of enthusiastic collaborators that want to keep the momentum going, and to apply for funding, because having that kind of clear crystallized goal really helps you out as you go. So these were our collaborators and sponsors, so we would like to thank them. We'd also like to thank you for your attention today.
Thank you so much for sharing some of those insights. One of the things that we wanted to also point out today is that these kinds of ideas can inspire anyone else to follow their own curiosity, their own impulses. This was started with one person's idea, and it turned into a really extraordinary event that has certainly inspired us. And the fact that it connected so beautifully to people of all ages. There were people there that were even older than I. And of course, the young folks, the third and fourth and fifth graders that were part of the judging teams were really, really invested. So it was so exciting. Thank you all for sharing that. We will take questions about all of these flash talks at the end. So just to let you know that start saving up your questions. We'll take them either from folks who have joined us on Zoom or folks who are here in the audience. And our next presenter is Christina Collins, Director of Education and Outreach from the Fralin Life Sciences Institute, and she is here to talk about wonderful opportunities to participate in Kids Tech University. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Complicated remote.
So my name is Christina Collins. As Patty said, I'm the Director of Education and Outreach at Fralin Life Sciences Institute. And today I'm going to be talking actually about 3 different programs that we currently have that faculty and graduate students can plug into. The first one is Kids Tech University. It's a program for children ages 9 to 12. And we normally, on a non-COVID year, we bring the kids to campus, and then the kids are going to be with us in a lecture hall. They're going to have an amazing talk by a scientist, interactive.
And then they're going to go and have lunch on campus, which is the best part probably about the entire experience. And then afterwards, they get to interact with student groups and faculty and others to learn about research, and then also to do hands-on activities with kids. And so here I've mentioned some of our engagement opportunities. So you can host a session with a scientist. What that means is in your grant, you can write about those things. You can also write about the various costs. And then we also have, you can host a hands-on booth. I say $500 to cover your consumables. Honestly, it depends upon your activity. If you're doing something with cornstarch, it's going to be significantly less than that. So you can write that into your grant under your broader impacts portions of your NSF grant. We also have the ability to take scholarships. So we do, any student who is asking for a scholarship, meaning that maybe they don't have the funds to be able to pay for the registration fee for Kids Tech, they still have to get the kids here. But once they come, we do have the ability to take the registration to have funds for them. And we can do it based upon the need for the NSF grant. So what I mean by that is if there's a question about funds for a student who may not be able to pay for it, we can write in certain localities. We can also do like military versus non-military involvement. So we can figure that out just depending upon your grant. So the other program we have is a 1-week-long summer program that's on campus, working specifically with Achievable Dream Academy. This is often funded by NSF grants, specifically looking at broader impacts. We bring 16 high schoolers and 2 teachers. They come from Newport News, and then we pay for the cost of them to stay on campus and then also to do the activities. The students receive a small stipend. And the reason this is important is because if you are working with an economically depressed student, them being able to earn money during the summertime is actually super important for them to be able to pay for certain things for their school year. So you actually will end up, if we can pay them a little bit of a stipend, maybe they don't want to go, work for another like amusement park. Maybe they want to come to us, which is what we want. And so they get to come on, we pay for their room, board, all that jazz. So the anticipated budget for this, if you're looking at it for your grants, are going to be right around $20,000 per year. So the next activity I wanted to briefly talk about is our STEM summer camps. These summer camps are a week long. They're non-residential. They're basically 9 to 12 years old, and they're also from 9 until 12 o'clock each day for a week. And for these kids, we end up going out and we do all sorts of tours and activities, science. We like to have fun and get really messy, which is a good thing. And we just have a good experience, honestly. Kind of have fun with science, have fun with engineering, and see what Virginia Tech has to offer. We first started this program because we were basically looking at COVID and going, kids need to get out of the house. And so it's kind of developed into a program where we can partner with researchers in order to have them come and they can pay for some of the scholarships. So you're looking at anywhere between $75 to $100 per child. And then we can interact with those kids that are in this particular area to come on campus and to have that care during the day, during the summertime. So briefly, just to give you my information, my name is Christina Collins again. Here is my email. I am looking to partner with faculty and with graduate students and students of all in order to do Kids Tech University, also some of our programs. We're always looking for people to interact with and host exhibits, do things with kids. So we definitely have kids available. I just need help. So that's my job.
To me, that's one of the most exciting things that I've learned in our years with Center for Communicating Science is how much you can get done with collaboration and help. Thank you so much for your work, Christy, and we will take questions later. I'd like to now introduce Dana Hawley from the Department of Biological Sciences, who will talk about her course in outreach biology. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to briefly talk about my graduate level outreach course. So to kind of set the stage for where this course came from, I wanted to briefly talk about this broader debate as to whether scientists themselves should be doing outreach at all. So you're probably all familiar with folks like Ed Yong and Laurie Garrett, who are excellent communicators of science, but not scientists themselves. And often the argument is made that perhaps we should be investing more in these sort of individuals who are very effective communicators rather than having academic scientists engage with the public. And I don't really like this term of receiving information. That's a very sort of deficit model approach. But I wanted to put up this quote because I personally think, and I bet everyone in this audience would agree, that it's really important for a lot of outreach to be done by academic scientists themselves. And that's both for the benefit of society. So some of the talks today have illustrated just the way in which these outreach events can kind of personalize science and serve as role models. But also because there are many, I guess the animation's not working. There are many sort of selfish reasons, I would argue, for scientists to do outreach. So every scientist I know that has engaged in outreach feels like it has really improved their own ability to communicate science. And sometimes even improves their science itself by giving them new and creative ways of thinking about their work. But the key barrier, I think, for scientists often in engaging in outreach is lack of training and infrastructure to actually engage easily in outreach. So the course that I'm going to talk about was an attempt to sort of start to address some of these barriers. Of course, it's a very small way to start to address it. And it's the idea of kind of making outreach engagement an integral part of the science graduate curriculum, and specifically trying to relate outreach directly to students' own research as a way to sort of make the benefits to the graduate student and therefore to their PI a little bit more clear, in the hopes that this will help incentivize PIs to also want their graduate students to invest their time in outreach, which is so important for their future career. And I wrote this course into my career proposal, which was funded by NSF. And the career program is a perfect way to propose these sort of ideas, because the aim of this program is to really integrate research and education in ways that advance university missions. And I sort of see outreach as just a general way to sort of meet this mission of NSF, which is really to merge kind of scientific merit with broader impacts. So briefly, the goals of the course are, generally to build skills and confidence, facilitate connections. So I tell the students on day one that I don't consider myself an outreach expert. The goal of the course is really to facilitate connections with those who are sort of outreach experts. So a shout out to all of the people, many of whom are in this room, who have been those experts during the course. And then finally, to engage and help students in designing and completing their own outreach project that kind of builds on their own research. I'm not going to have time to talk about all the topics, but just briefly, we do talk about a diversity of different types of outreach, from like K through 12 school outreach, which has its own sort of constraints with SOLs and whatnot, to outreach to the press, as well as how do we kind of assess the quality of our outreach and whether we're meeting our goals. I just wanted to briefly highlight some of the fun course projects from the past. So a graduate student that did her research at Carbons Cove Natural Reserve put together this really nice, I think it was 25-page workbook for kids who take field trips to this reserve. And this is still in use today by many school children in Roanoke who go to this reserve. We've had students do displays at the Nature Center, do activities at Bug Fest. And then my last example is just a brochure that a student put together who works on snake fungal disease. And I thought this was a nice sort of example of a different type of outreach project that can sort of live on well beyond her lifespan as a graduate student, not her lifespan in general. Sorry. So finally, I just want to note, after a couple of years after I started my course, this paper was published, and you can't really see the title, but it's Amplifying the Signal. And I really like the way they were framing a very similar course they have. And I really like this idea that by sort of engaging scientists very early in their career in outreach, we sort of amplify that signal throughout the course of those students' careers. So thank you very much, and happy to take any questions at the end.
Thank you, Dana. I think that's what we're all trying to do, is amplify the signal, resonate with one another and with the broader community. My pleasure is now to introduce, I'm putting words together in very strange ways today. This is not communicating science. This is just barely communicating, okay? I have the honor of presenting Vicki Corbin of the College of Science, Assistant Dean for Outreach and Student Engagement, who's here to talk about opportunities to participate in summer camps and other outreach programs through her college. Welcome, Vicki.
Thank you, Patty. It's good to see you all here. Yes, so I want to talk about 3 different programs I've sort of developed or am involved in, I should probably say. So the first one is some workshops for high school teachers, their professional development. And is there a pointer on this? This? Oh, good. I figured it out. So this coming summer, late June, we'll have our first workshop. Obviously, I've tried to do this in the past, but COVID. So we have different faculty who are teaching different sessions. So we have 2 morning sessions, we have 1 afternoon session, we have a whole day session, and all of these are on different topics. So we have some biology, we have microbiology, we have physics, we have chemistry, a whole bunch of different things, which we could, you know, depending on your interest, we could tailor to you. So the goals here for teachers are to help them develop a deeper knowledge and love of science, and then of course to imbue that in their own children or their own students and children, and then to cover the standards of learning in a way that's easy and fun for the kids to learn the standards. And then the benefits to you, as a lot of my predecessors here have talked about, is to broaden the impact of your research. And in many ways, I mean, you should get some pleasure from sharing the topics you love with a broader audience. And hopefully we can help you with your grants. And so the idea here is that all the logistics would be taken care of me. I'd find the teachers, I'd find the rooms, I'd buy the supplies, and all you would have to do is show up and, you know, inspire, which is probably what we all want to do. Another program I've started here are science camps. Obviously, lots of people do science camps. This coming summer, we're going to have 4 different ones. Explore Science, which is for slightly younger kids, which will cover a range of topics in the College of Science, but I'm not opposed to collaborating with people outside the College of Science as well. Then we have 3 for older kids who are beginning to think about college and maybe exploring majors. These are designed so that they learn about topics they may never have thought about before. Like everyone knows about being a doctor or a lawyer, but they don't know about being a nanoscientist or a water quality scientist. So that's what these are about. We have lots of really fun things. And these are sort of compartmentalized as well, where faculty comes in, teaches. One faculty is teaching 15 minutes. Another group of faculty are teaching 7 hours. So we can really tailor it to you. But the idea is to inspire the kids to want to learn more. So fun, 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 and inspiring. So they're going to learn science, they're going to do science, they're going to get a sneak peek at college life, and they're going to get to explore careers. We'll have people come in to talk about careers in the evenings. And then the benefits to you, again, repeating myself, share the work you love, you know, help you with the broader impacts for your grants. We can provide language to help you. And we also have some money for graduate students who want to get involved. So if you have graduate students who want to do an outreach activity in one of these things, we can pay them a little bit. Again, all the logistics are taken care of me, which I got to tell you, I was not a logistical person before. And then last, I didn't start this program, but the Fralin Institute has been running Biotech in a Box for 20 years. Christina Collins has been running it. It's a really cool program where they send out high-tech kits to classroom teachers, and then the teachers send them back when they're done with them. You get all the supplies, equipment, you give manuals and class suggestions for the teachers. So it's pretty empowering. So I will take over after Christy retires. And I have a few additional goals. I really would like to go beyond biotech to include any topic, not any topic, but science topics. I'd also like to start going into the classroom a little bit. Myself, I'll probably pilot that this fall where I go into a classroom and then we can zoom in for further discussions, but really develop relationships with classes that don't get a lot of outreach attention. And then we want to train the teachers to use these kits so that they're empowered as well. So if you're interested, please contact me, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Vicki. And next, we have Theodore Lim, School of Public and International Affairs, from the School of Public and International Affairs, who's here to talk about a really cool outreach project that involved middle school students as researchers in Roanoke.
Great, thank you. All right, so the title of my talk today is Communicating the Science of Urban Heat through Urban Planning with Youth. So just as a little bit of background, some of you may know that heat waves actually are the #1 cause of death or kill more Americans every year than any other natural disaster. So you might have heard about the urban heat island effect, but even within cities, there's actually quite a bit of variation in temperature. And that variation corresponds to places that have been historically marginalized for systematically through history. So what you see here is a map of Roanoke on the left, air temperatures, and you can see that temperatures vary, 10 degrees between some areas. And that spatially corresponds with the historic redlining map, which is how housing segregation was sanctioned and enforced by the state and is now highly illegal, but we still see the legacies of redlining today. So because there is so much variation between neighborhoods, it's really important to involve the residents in discussions about urban heat and what to do about it. And so that's what we were trying to do here, to use urban planning as a tool and starting with the community. So we went and we did a 2-week STEM and urban planning combined program in Roanoke with middle schoolers. And so here you can see them exploring different neighborhoods in Roanoke using Google Street Maps and temperature maps. And so they're gaining this kind of spatial understanding of how are these landscape elements correlated with temperatures. We flew drones that had thermal cameras mounted on them, and we took temperatures of different surfaces throughout the day. Here you can see the sidewalk really heating up, and then the green areas kind of staying much cooler, and kids really liked seeing that. We had them go out with different kinds of sensors all over their campus and have them, again, just reinforcing how their body feels in different places, correlating that with different landscape elements, and then seeing that on the actual instruments that are measuring it. But then we also had them interview each other to understand what the impacts of heat are in their daily lives. We had them sketch solutions for places that they care about in their neighborhoods. And I should have mentioned, a lot of these kids are from Northwest Roanoke, which is one of the hottest areas in Roanoke. And then putting together a plan, connecting spatially the different parks in Roanoke with green streets and some of the other solutions that they came up with. So it was really interesting. We had the most dramatic kind of example that somebody came up with during the interviews was that her whole family had to go to a hotel room because the heat was so bad that her grandfather actually had a heat stroke, and she was the one to have to call the ambulance. This is a 12-year-old girl who did this. But there are many, many stories from other students that were kind of more mundane, but also very striking, that they had to sleep on the ground in the living room to feel cool, that they would freeze water bottles in order to feel cool enough to sleep in their own beds at night. But what was really striking also was that over the course of this 2-week engagement with the kids, their problem definition of the issue of heat and temperature changed over time. So in the beginning, they were much more likely to define it as an individual issue. Your family doesn't have air conditioning, you should just go get more air conditioning, or you should turn your thermostat down, or you should take more showers or drink a glass of water to stay cool. But by the end of the program, they were really talking about it as a community approach that was needed, and using these the scientific data that we were showing them to affirm their own lived experience and to come up with these solutions. So this is an example of one where they're talking about planting more trees together as a neighborhood and putting up shade structures together. So yeah, this is just one example that I wish I had known about more of the infrastructure that around supporting community engagement, but this is just one example from last summer.
Thank you so much, Theo. Well, that's part of why we do things like this, so we can learn about each other. And what a great example of not just understanding your audience, but involving your community. That's fantastic. Next, we have Kim Lester with the Center for Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, or SEED, to talk about opportunities to participate in outreach programs for teens. Welcome, Kim.
Okay, so we all know that the United States is a very diverse country, and the breadth of those perspectives is what's really going to allow us to solve many of the challenges and complex problems that are facing our world today. But we also know that the benefits of diversity go beyond just another frame of reference or having a variety of approaches to a given problem. They also make us work hard. So we expect that working in diverse teams is going to be difficult. We come into it more aware, more focused on what we're doing. We're more willing to listen, to hear other people, to compromise on solutions. And so even knowing all of this ahead of time, we still find that underrepresented populations aren't in STEM, and in particular, they're not in engineering. According to the US Census Bureau in 2021, women only represent 17% of people engaged in engineering activities. And those numbers are even lower when you look at Hispanics, 9%, and Blacks, 5%. The Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, we are really hoping to change this. So SEED's mission is to expose young people to the joys and the challenges of STEM and engineering in particular. Hopefully, we're able to recruit many of them to come to Virginia Tech as students. And it's also very important to us that we continue to provide the support that they need once they get here in order to be successful. We do have a whole suite of programs. I am not going to talk about every one of these, but they range from supporting our faculty in their broader impact efforts. We also engage our current undergraduate students in outreach activities. We coordinate quite a few recruiting events during the academic year. And as you can see on the right-hand side, we have a very long list of summer programs. So with these programs, what we want to do is to really give the students an idea of the tremendous breadth of engineering opportunities that are out there. We also really want them to understand the iterative nature of the engineering design project. Part of that is failing and learning how to deal with failure. We also know that establishing human connections is essential when we're trying to recruit these students. So we provide opportunities for them to connect with faculty, with staff, with current college students. And we also hope to help them create a support network of peers who have similar goals and interests. The camp allows participants to see themselves as college students. Something literally as simple as being able to navigate a dining hall can really empower these students. They go from not knowing anything about being a college student to really having the confidence and a changed attitude in what's possible for them. Core to all of our camps are the components. On the right-hand side, So we do have hands-on activities that are led by faculty and graduate students. They are amazing. We are not able to pay most of them for their time, but they share their expertise, they share their passion with the students, and they also really let the students know that even though they're young, they are really important and valued. We also always include a 10-hour plus engineering design project that culminates in a showcase and very core to communicating science. It is essential that during that showcase, they have to talk about their understandings and what they have learned and done over the course of the camp. Finally, we do make sure that we have plenty of scholarships available to our students, and that really helps us broaden our impact. So while we know that data is essential to everything we do, I also have to say that there is nothing that brings more joy to me than the letters of thank you that we receive at the end of the camps. It really means a lot. I literally keep a drawer full of them so I can make sure that when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can reach in and read those afterwards. And then the final thing is that it takes so many people to pull these things off. So everything from the K-12 personnel, business partners, private donors, parents, community organizations. Here at Virginia Tech, I work with Hokie Wellness, admissions, financial aid, venture out, so many groups. We also have outside organizations like the Virginia Space Grant Consortium. I know earlier someone thanked all of their partners, very similar for us. And the final thought that I want to leave you with is just how can all of us here make sure that we use our connections to change the landscape. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Next, we have our friend Daniel Smith, a graduate student in and Global Change Fellow, to talk about the Virginia Science Community Interface, which provides expertise for community-driven activism and advocacy in Virginia and the region. Welcome, Daniel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Smith. Again, I'm a graduate student here at Virginia Tech in the Biological Systems Engineering Department, and also in the Interfaces of Global Change as well. And I'm currently part of the executive board of the Virginia Scientist Community Interface, or VSI for short. And this is a graduate student-led, graduate student-run organization that started up back in early 2020, so right before the pandemic hit. And we're back then made up mostly of students from Virginia Tech and University of Virginia, or UVA. Now we have broadened to various different universities across outside, more inside and also outside of Virginia. And because of that, we have mostly been based online, as you see here. The first time we met in person was actually back in December at a conference. Some of us came in and actually met there, but we've mostly been doing our work online. And what our organization really focuses on is, as Patty was saying, providing scientific expertise for community-driven advocacy in Virginia mostly, but also throughout the region. So I'll describe kind of what we do and what this kind of means to us. And kind of also run through one very exceptional impact that we've already had that I think is really worthwhile. So what do? We partner with different, right now, mostly environmental advocacy organizations, but there have been and could be others in the future. So some of these organizations, you have Wild Virginia, the Sierra Club, the Southern Environmental Law Center. And we partner with these organizations or individuals from these organizations, and they meet up with us and say, we have this question, we have this problem. Can you, VSI, leverage the scientific expertise you have in your organization? Because we are a group of grad students from various backgrounds, mostly science background. Can we leverage that to answer this question or clarify this problem that this group is currently facing, or this challenge they're currently pushing against? And so that's where we come in and review the science, and that can come in various different forms depending on the project. So some examples, one project we are working on now was greenhouse gas emissions from hydroelectric dams. We were approached to analyze these dams for the amount of greenhouse gases they are emitting into the environment. Two others focus on pipeline projects in the area. So you may have heard of them if you're from here, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which wasn't too close to Blacksburg, but also the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is very close to here as well. And we were asked to analyze the documents that these organizations were putting out and saying, are they fully are they using the best science to mitigate their impact during the construction of these pipeline projects? Impact to the environment, impact to aquatic species. So like the candy darter, if you're familiar with some of the aquatic species, endangered species we have in the area. So we're asked to review the science. So going back and forth between what we have already and our partners can supply, give to us, we review different documents, and then we report out in some fashion, and that can vary depending on the project end goal. But one of the very common ones is we write a public comment of our findings and submit it directly to a government agency. And this is a really powerful method because it is required for the agency to respond to these and the organization to respond to these. So it's an immediate way where we can get immediate feedback from that company, from that organization. And we did this with our, use the example of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and that is a natural gas pipeline that's running through Virginia and West Virginia. And we use this format, to submit our scientific findings in the public realm, in the public arena, and get some responses back and some direct communication with, or indirect communication with the MVP company. And so an example of kind of the impact our work can have, some of you may have heard back in January that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals vacated Mountain Valley's pipeline permit to cross through the Jefferson National Forest. So that is one, thank you. That's one way that, or in that process, if you were to look through the court document and read kind of the court understanding of why they did it, they actually cited data back in a report, public comment that we had filed through VSI back in December of 2020. So of the 3 reasons that they cited for vacating the permit, one of them was data that we had found, wrote up, and submitted as a public comment for the Mountain Valley Pipeline. So just one way of showing how this connection between partner organizations and scientific communities can really coalesce into something where you have the scientific expertise and an expert opinion on the best way to submit that finding for immediate impact. And so you can look at our current projects online on our website, and also you can email me or us at virginiasci.org for more information. Some of these projects may not be active, but you can also go on there, and if you were to join our Slack channel or email us and having a project idea, this is a great hub to actually propose an idea and get some team members for that idea as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And our last but not least, absolutely, presenter is Phyllis Newbill, who is Associate Director of the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts, or CENI. And she's here to talk about opportunities to participate in the Science Festival and exhibits at the Science Museum of Western Virginia and much more. Phyllis.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty. All right, I'm here to help you all plug into CENI's networks. I'm so pleased to be here in this room with these people. You all have done such amazing work. Many are familiar faces to CENI and our Campus Engagement Network. We're also always pleased to partner with the Center for Communicating Science. What a great group. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of what we're doing at Virginia Tech. At the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts, we have relationships with museums and schools, as well as on campus. So I'm going to start with schools and school children. We have liaisons who work in our office from Floyd County, Montgomery County, and Radford City schools. They come to campus. They work in Radford City schools and these school systems. They work in the school system and come spend a day with us, really to live in both worlds, to help the school system know what we need, to help Virginia Tech know what the school systems need. So we're actually talking to people with boots on the ground. In addition, we partner with College Access Collaborative, the Reynolds Homestead, and the Qualcomm Think a Bit Lab in Roanoke, all of whom are busy doing outreach projects and things with the university as a whole. We're also deeply embedded in museums. I spend about usually one day a week at the Science Museum of Western Virginia in Roanoke, in downtown Roanoke. There, we help build exhibits, we help with after-school programs, we help with camps and events. Dana Hawley actually has an exhibit on microbiology in the museum right now as part of one of her grants. There are several career grants and other grants represented. We have, I think, 8 exhibits in the museum right now. Anytime there's an event or a camp or a thing that's happening at the museum, they'll say, Phyllis, we're doing a thing. Who you got? And so it's really fun to get to be that liaison in the middle. We also work with the Virginia Museum of Natural History a bit and the Science Museum of Virginia. So we have partnerships there. I'm so tickled with my new title, the Associate Director of Educational Networks. My job is to know people and just connect them up. So 2 big things that we do to help actually grow this network. The Virginia Tech Science Festival happens in the fall. We've done it a couple different ways. These stats have to do with pre-COVID. So it's a fall event. We typically bring between 3,000 and 6,000 people to campus for a day. 700 of those kids generally come on school buses through field trips that are funded through the College Access Collaborative. So we're actually bringing kids in from places that wouldn't come ordinarily. On the student and faculty development side, this is an opportunity for really rapid prototyping of a spiel. I tell people that if you haven't got your spiel ready before the Science Festival, you'll have one by the end of the day because they just keep coming and you're just going to keep trying something. So that's an event. So a couple things happen with that. One, it's a big event, it's a lot of fun. But what that creates for us is a catalog of who's doing outreach across campus. And so when the museum or the school or some other organization contacts us and says, hey, we'd like to have some expert from Virginia Tech come talk to us, we can look through that catalog or even send it to them or send them a specific group from that and say, does any of this work for you? Another big event is Hokie for a Day. These are a series of field trips. Currently, they're happening in the spring. We're working into fall and spring. These happen on Wednesdays. I believe that is Christie's lab right there. So these field trips bring 5th graders to campus for a day-long Hokie for a Day experience. So they have a little college orientation. They learn some vocabulary words. They have a STEM experience. Previously, we've done those as a longer experience of 40 minutes. We've changed that to be more like an expo now. Those are focused on Title I schools. So those are schools that have higher poverty and lower reading levels. And we serve about 600 children a semester that way. That's an opportunity for faculty to join in as well. I want to introduce you to Chelsea Lyles, who can help if you're interested in broader impacts and ways to connect with these through schools, museums, or one of these events. Chelsea is our Associate Director of Broader Impacts. She can help with evaluation and grants. And I guess it is actually time for questions, but I'll let Patty close it up. Thank you so much.
So what an amazing array of opportunities and resources and inspiration. I am so grateful to all of you for all that you do. We do have about 5 minutes for questions, and we can take questions from the live audience or questions that might have come in online if there are any. Any questions for anybody? Sure, Carrie. We have some congratulations for VSI and MVP victory. Other comments or questions? Well, if there are none. Are there some online? Oh, I thought you said there were none online. Great.
Oh, yeah, no,
You
there are
do want-
multiple. The first one that many people are asking is like, where can they get the information? Where they can, do they have the contact of all the speakers, and will they have the slides?
The slides are absolutely available, and this was recorded and will be available. Do you want to say how?
We will put a link on the VTLSS page and maybe the second.
Okay, yes, we'll definitely have a link on the Center for Communicating Science webpage and the VTLS whatever webpage will also be have a link, and we can send the slides to anyone, but also the just email addresses we can gather and send out in a very simple way. Any other?
The question here is another quick one. Are proposals still being accepted for communicating science week based on Dr. Johnson?
Well, unfortunately, proposals for Communicating Science Week are closed because we could probably put a little note on our webpage, but we're probably not going to be able to do the organizing or the managing of the event that we have been doing for some of the other events. But don't hesitate. Our answer to everything is yes and. So please do contact us, Carrie Kraler or myself, with something that you're doing. We'll put it on our webpage. We may not be able to bring a lot of attention to it other than that, but that's a yes and. Anything else?
Another question by Frankie Edwards. This is a complicated one that comes in two parts, and it's pretty much for anyone who feels like they can answer. Something they often think about is that at a young age, up to 7th grade, exposure to science is accessible in so many ways. But their feeling is that as kids become teenager, 8th to 12th grade, those opportunities begin to diminish. And they're uncertain whether this is just their personal experience or whether that is something more general, and what can scientists do to remove these barriers for teenagers?
Dana, do you feel like taking that question? Hop up here, hop up here to the microphone.
Like I said, I'm not-
This is an improv exercise. We're doing. Or anybody.
I feel like I don't know anything beyond the ages of my children and their maximum of 9, but that's an interesting point. I feel like a lot of that is driven by just the curricular requirements as kids get older, sort of limit the amount of flexibility teachers have. I'm not sure if Phyllis would agree with that.
No,
but
I agree.
you
Yeah,
might want
I'll
to stand
bring
up.
it too.
Okay, yeah, because you
I-
have
I'll-
way more experience.
I
with this.
don't, but I have thoughts on this. So there is that, it's a difficult time, but between fifth grade, everybody's like, yay, science, and you can come to the science festival. One is I'm gonna look at Kim and say, there's a million great camps, and send your teenagers there.
Our start in middle school.
Right.
Mm.
So they're middle school and up.
Mhm.
There's also some more camps at the Science Museum that are great opportunities. And I'll also throw out, and this is, those of y'all know me, I'm a scout leader, is look for opportunities for leadership.
Mhm.
So if building that science identity by helping with a camp for younger children, if you're looking for ways to bring those teenagers in, and looking for ways for them to create that identity of a leadership space. Carrie has thoughts too.
I'm going to say something on behalf of the Flip the Fair organizers, which is that the posters they made were pitched at 3rd to 5th graders. But also, you told me that the teenagers who hang out in the library every weekend got sucked right in and loved the posters. And the parents who brought the kids loved the posters. So maybe we should be putting pink sparkles on more things. And not making science so hard and scary when kids become teenagers.
I'm gonna throw it one more time. Sure. I do. So my children are all teenagers right now. So one thing that I just want to make sure that everyone who's communicating science remembers is that in 5th grade, 3rd through 5th grade, they're like looking up at you and just gazing with love and understanding at everything you say. And about 6th grade, somewhere between 6th and 8th, they just learn the poker face and you will never get a response. The same thing is happening though. The same joy that the 5th graders showed you, it's still happening and we just have to push through that lack of response. And I'll tell you as a parent that what they do is they go there and they just stare at you like this.
And when they get home, they're like, I saw the coolest thing. So just push through and keep going.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you so much. As the poets say, we need to achieve the age of higher innocence in order to be celebrating science again in visible ways. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you in the real audience and in the real audience elsewhere. So great, you guys. Thank you so much.
I really want to get this.